Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass. Today we have got Senior Supreme Court Advocate Mr. Vivek Sood. और सर से हम बात करेंगे जो होम बायर्स की प्रॉब्लम थी, जो हमेशा वो उठाते रहते हैं, उसके बारे में कि जो 48,000 करोड़ का जो आवंटन हुआ है इस बार बजट में, उसके बारे में क्या सोचते हैं, कैसे देखते हैं. सो वेलकम टू द शो सर. If you can tell us straight to the point, if you can tell us about this 48,000 crore allocation for the under the Prime Minister Awas Yojana.
In my view, it's a revolutionary step to allocate 48,000 crores, for homes for all. The concept that is being propagated by the government of India in this budget is that every Indian must have a home, must have a shelter. And in my view, it's a big step in the right direction. It's a facet of economic justice. Now, economic justice has been spoken of in the preamble of the Constitution of India. Like political justice, social justice, economic justice, in my view, is a very significant aspect of justice. Now, this allocation of 48,000 crores in this budget, towards homes for all is a manifestation, it's an implementation, it's a facet of economic justice in India. And, I welcome this step. It's a revolutionary step in the right direction. This government thinks for the poor, thinks for every citizen of India. It is not a government that only thinks about the top corporates. It's a government that thinks about the citizens at large, public at large. And therefore, I reiterate that it's a very big step in the right direction.
Right, sir. Right. And obviously it will help other industries also. जैसे सीमेंट की इंडस्ट्री हो गई, स्टील इंडस्ट्री हो गई, बिकॉज जब इतने हाउसेस बनेंगे तो
definitely it will have a cascading effect on the Indian economy. It will generate employment. It will bring a boom in the raw material industry. So all those are all cascading effects that will come out as a consequence of this big allocation of 48,000 crores towards homes for all in India.
Right, sir. और गवर्नमेंट शायद जितना हो सका उन्होंने इस बार करने की कोशिश की है. ऐसे आपने एक बुक लिखी है सर, जो प्रोग्रेस ऑफ इंडियन इकोनॉमी लेजिस्लेटिव प्रो एक्टिविज्म सिंस 2015, जो कि थॉमसन रॉयटर्स दे आर पब्लिशिंग इट एंड इट्स एक्सपेक्टेड टू कम आउट इन मार्च. इन द फर्स्ट चैप्टर सर, आप क्योंकि होम बायर्स के प्रति काफी सॉफ्ट कॉर्नर है आपका शायद, तो आप काफी उनकी दिक्कतों को सामने लाते रहते हैं, और उसमें आपने काफी डिटेल में रेरा के बारे में, क्योंकि 2015 के बाद जो यस गवर्नमेंट ने लेजिस्लेटिव रिफॉर्म्स एक तरह से जो एक्शंस लेके आए थे, तो उसमें रेरा भी एक शामिल है, तो उसके बारे में आपने काफी डिटेल में कहा है. तो सर ये रेरा क्या है, अगर आप अच्छे ढंग से बता देंगे दर्शकों को, और उसका मतलब क्या, व्हाट डज इट मीन फॉर कॉमन पीपल, क्या है, कैसे लोग उसका फायदा उठा रहे हैं, नहीं उठा रहे हैं या उठा सकते हैं.
Before I speak about RERA, I want to speak about the status of home buyers prior to 2016. We all know there was a real estate boom in India, from 2000 onwards. Now, in this boom, what happened? Real estate companies came out with very attractive real estate schemes. And many investors and ordinary citizens, they got entrapped and they got attracted by these schemes. And, as we all know, every citizen dreams of a home. Shelter is a basic necessity for every citizen. Every citizen wants a home for himself and for his kith and kin. So in this scenario, a lot of investors, a lot of home buyers invested their life savings into these attractive looking real estate schemes in the hope of a dream home, which never came. So there were so many home buyers who lost their money, who never got their apartments. And so therefore, this was the predicament of home buyers prior to 2016. One would read frequently in the newspapers that home buyers are protesting on the streets against these real estate companies. In my view, they were like street protesters or beggars, begging for refund of their money. And their legal rights were very weak in nature. At the most, they would invoke the Consumer Protection Act of 1986 and file their complaints in the consumer courts, which took years and years for being decided. So, home buyers were not getting their due in terms of justice. And many unethical real estate companies exploited this situation of weak laws and home buyers left in a lurch. So this is where the home buyers were before 2016. Now comes 2016, and we have a revolutionary piece of legislation called RERA of 2016. I must congratulate, I must say kudos to the parliament, kudos to the government of India for bringing in this revolutionary piece of legislation that restores or that brings back the balance between home buyers and real estate companies. So let me speak more about RERA 2016 now.
Yes, sir.
First of all, RERA rejects the one-sided exploitative contracts that would be drafted by the builders, and the consumers and the home buyers were made to sign on a dotted line. Now, I have read so many of these contracts. They were totally one-sided, exploitative, totally in favor of the builder and against the home buyers. Now, RERA says such contracts will be a nullity. So now there will be an authority that will vet these contracts. Contracts will not be one-sided in nature. So therefore, the rights of home buyers have been recognized by RERA. Secondly, RERA is not only a curative statute. It is not that only when you are aggrieved, only when you have lost your money, only then you will go before the RERA authority. No. It is also a regulatory statute, meaning thereby every real estate company must get itself registered under RERA. And from the inception of the project till the completion, the authority will supervise the compliance of the law by the real estate companies. The timelines promised by real estate companies to complete the real estate projects to home buyers. And then, a lot of the money that was collected by real estate companies would be misappropriated and siphoned away into other dream home projects. Now, that is not permissible. That money has to be kept in an escrow account, and at least 70 to 80% of the amount will have to be spent on the construction of that very project for which money has been collected. So RERA is not only a curative statute, it's also a regulatory statute. Then, if home buyers are aggrieved by the real estate companies, they can invoke RERA. They can seek compensation from the real estate companies. So these are some of the salient features of RERA, which in my view is a game-changing legislation in modern India. Now, allocation of 48,000 crores for homes for all, coupled with RERA, this is what is economic justice to the home buyers. Here is, government that is willing to invest in the real estate sector by bringing in the concept of home for all, And then you have a statute also that protects the rights of home buyers as against the builders, as against real estate companies. So these are some of the features of RERA which I've talked about in my book.
Right, sir. So in your book, you must have also suggested some other ways to go forward. RERA is very good, but recently Supreme Court has given some sort of a direction that in terms of a model buyer, a builder buyer agreement. So there are certain things which are still left out. What are the suggestions that you have given in your book, sir?
Yes. So I have stated the way forward. We have to move forward. That's what Mr. Narendra Modi, our Honorable Prime Minister, he's always looking ahead. He has a vision for the future. So I have suggested further reforms in the real estate sector. For example, a lot of FIRs, a lot of criminal cases have been registered against builders and promoters of real estate companies. Now, I find that FIRs are registered, investigation is concluded, charge sheets are filed in the court. But what happens thereafter? Do we have the legal infrastructure to prosecute these builders, these unethical builders, within a certain time frame? Now, I find that in multi-victim scams, where there are multiple home buyers who have been cheated by the promoters of a real estate company, once a charge sheet is filed in the courts are clogged with these cases. So, and these cases are not simple cases where the charge sheet runs into some dozens of pages or 100 pages. I have seen these charge sheets run into thousands of pages, and you have hundreds of witnesses, victims, etc. Now, the infrastructure to conduct these prosecutions, these trials in the courts of law is not there. Especially if you see Delhi, for example. Now, these cases are filed before the Chief Metropolitan Magistrate or the Additional Chief Metropolitan Magistrates. Now, these courts are clogged with thousands and thousands of cases. Plus, when you have these cases, so it is impossible to conclude these criminal trials in 20 years, 30 years, or even half a century. So I have suggested one of the reforms that we should have special courts, special criminal courts to try these multi-victim real estate scam cases.
Right.
Similarly, I have given some other suggestions. I would not want to talk more about it. That's the mystery of the book. So let the book come out. So I will not let out the other suggestions which I have given.
Right, sir. Right. I understand. So, sir, tell me, from Delhi is a very aware place and people know about things, they read about things. But suppose एक छोटे से गांव की बात लेते हैं, छोटे से टाउन की बात लेते हैं. आजकल हर जगह अपार्टमेंट्स होने शुरू हो गए हैं, बिल्डर्स हो गए हैं. वहां पर एक कॉमन व्यक्ति को अगर कोई शिकायत है तो वो रेरा का कैसे उपयोग कर सकता? हाउ कैन ही use that particular tool in his hand or power in his hand to get justice for himself or his family?
First of all, I must say that RERA contains a very simple procedure. It is not a very technical statute. Of course, it's always practical to hire a lawyer,
right,
for initiating a legal dispute. But even if you don't have a lawyer, a simple petition naming the company, the real estate company, and what is the investment you have made. And if you send that petition, even if you send it online to RERA authority, cognizance will be taken. So the procedure is simplified. And I would request the policymakers to keep that process as simple as possible, not complicate the procedure, so that the common man can effectively invoke this remedy under RERA against the real estate companies. Of course,
Right.
I would say that we need more of RERA authorities. At this stage, I think we have the RERA authorities in the state capitals. Most of them are at the state capitals. But as time will roll by, I will urge the policy makers to have RERA authorities at the district level also. The way you have the district courts and then the High Court and the Supreme Court. Similarly, on the RERA also, so that the citizen in a district, in a small town, can also effectively invoke this remedy under RERA, against the real estate sharks and the big real estate companies who have siphoned away and misappropriated the money of the home buyers.
Right, sir. Right. You have explained about RERA, about the new government steps also very, very well. Sir, आपने पहले चैप्टर में IBC का भी जिक्र किया है. तो can you tell us about that at the moment, if it's possible?
Yes. I think we need to do a separate show on the insolvency and bankruptcy code. But then having said that, I will only say that home buyers in a collective, in an association of a certain number, have been recognized as financial creditors, like
Right.
banks and financial institutions. So
Right.
if aggrieved home buyers who have lost their money, if they come together, they can actually bring down the real estate company. They can
Right.
take the real estate company to the National Company Law Tribunal, and they
Right.
can pray that the management of the real estate company be changed and somebody else take over the company. And if a resolution plan does not take shape, the company should be liquidated. So here lies the empowerment of home buyers, under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code and RERA. Of course, I can talk more about the IBC separately, because that's a separate chapter altogether.
Right, sir. Right. Fair enough. Fair enough. So on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of the KJ Masterclass. Thank you very much for your time, sir. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to interact with you.
Thank you, sir.